I definitely see the connection between all of the COVID-19 measures and what's happening now with this trans agenda and this push that's just gotten everywhere. It's everybody's talking about it. It's kind of nuts. I mean, this is a very small minority of people, the people who simply identified as a different gender, not someone who believed they were a different gender or sex, really is the better word. But now everyone's talking about it. It's being pushed on kids. And I do believe there's a huge connection. First of all the lockdowns created a lot of isolation. It created a lot of screen time. I mean, kids were literally forced to be on their screens for school. And so it would be hard for parents to monitor what they were doing at school, especially if the parents had to work. Even if they're working in the same home, they still had to be in a different room or do something. They can't watch their child 24/7. So you have these children alone, away from their regular daily activities, away from their friends, away from sports, or any of the things that might keep them occupied, out of trouble, provide the structure and the interaction, the things that they need for healthy development. So they've been isolated. So I think a lot of this stuff has happened because kids have been so isolated in their emotionally have basically they've been disrupted this way. And yeah, there's this huge push for the COVID-19 vaccine. And as you heard earlier, I chose not to get it, but I faced a lot of backlash as a result, even from my own family. It was a really hard time. And it was, I mean, now it's not as prevalent, but you think back to how much that thing was pushed and how many threats people got for not getting it, and how cities were not allowing people to go into restaurants and not do things to get this vaccine, which we've now learned doesn't even work at all. But we know how it works. It profits a lot of people. And unfortunately, a lot of people who have taken it have had serious complications. And so they're now patients for life too. So yeah, I definitely see connection. I see connection in the mentality too. There's this sort of not question the narrative, not question things, and these slogans that they use. You know, vaccine saves lives, masks save lives. Now,
Safe and
affirmative care
effective.
saves lives. All these platitudes and these sort of collectivism type thinking. I think there's a real connection there. And then, wearing masks and being separated from people. And by the way, I do live in the Bay Area of California, and I was in an area that was probably masked up the most and for the longest. And I felt that psychologically. People were not making eye contact. People were not looking at each other. It impacted my mental health. And I'm not someone who has a serious mental health disorder. I'm not someone who does struggle with social anxiety, but it impacted me seriously. So it affected society. I still have a hard time really wrapping my head around how it impacted children. And I think one of the ways that one of the unfortunate outcomes we're seeing is these kids who are now identifying as trans because they've been so lost. They've been so isolated. They've been separated from their peers. They haven't even been able to see their own face for a couple of years while they were developing and growing. So now their sense of self is completely destroyed. And the screen time, the stuff online is a huge propaganda machine to teach them that this is the way, and then this will give them that sense of belonging that they're craving. So I see there's a huge connection between the two.